Welcome to the Whatever Show. We are coming to you live from Isla Vista, Santa Barbara County, California. I'm your host, Brian Atlas. That's Brian with an X. The X is silent. You don't pronounce it. I am joined by my very first guest for my first interview, Brandon Rebel Gray. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
So, ex-convict, ex-street gang member, formerly incarcerated, system-impacted individual. Before we get into the interview, just a few quick notes for you guys. This is only our second show. We're doing it live, got a new stream set up, so appreciate your understanding while I'm still working out the flow and pacing. A few quick announcements before the show begins. This channel is viewer-supported. We're heavily demonetized by YouTube, so I humbly request your patronage. All the money I make, I pour back into making videos. You know, the studio rent in Santa Barbara is crazy. I want to get more cameras for new angles. Right now we have 3. I'd like to get at least 2 more cameras, more mics for more guests, a better computer. Don't get me started on some of the computer issues we've had. But you can support us in one or more of the following ways. You can join and become a member of the channel. You'll get access to over 100 plus exclusive videos. Get a very cool Vanilla Woe icon next to your name and chat and comments. You can also gift memberships to other viewers. Send a super chat. I will answer super chats intermittently. $10 and up for now. If you want it read, we will display all super chats of any rate in stream overlay. If you have a question for me, if you have a question for Grandin, feel free to pose it via super chat. Join the Patreon, same perks as joining the channel. Patreon takes less of a cut. We got merch, shop.whatever.com. Here's a big one. We are also streaming to Twitch. We are live there right now, twitch.tv/whatever. If you have Amazon Prime, you can link it to a Twitch account, and every month you can sub totally free on Twitch. It takes maybe 1 minute to set up. Quick, free way to support the show. So head on over to Twitch, twitch.tv/whatever. Follow out whatever on all other social media platforms. Just to kind of wrap up here, we need chat mods, help with timestamps. DM us if you're down to help. We need a studio intern. If you live in Isla Vista, Santa Barbara, and you're interested, DM me at whatever. So without further ado, let's get right into it. My guest today is Brandon Gray. And so ex-gang member. But before we kind of get into that, I got just a couple sort of rapid fire biographical questions for you. So how old are you, Brandon?
40.
40, okay. And where were you born? California or?
California, a city called Salinas in the Monterey County area.
That's up north, right? Northern
Right.
California, okay. And you pretty much lived there most of your life, or did you move around, or that pretty much in Salinas?
Yeah, all 20 years of my life before incarceration were in Salinas.
Okay, got it. And so what was your early childhood like growing up in Salinas?
Well, like many areas in California, the side of town I grew up on was poor. Family was Section 8 family. A lot of domestic violence between mother and father and just neighbors. A lot of people in the neighborhood, it was just the norm, you know, kids running away, getting screamed at type of thing, off to their own vices in the streets, you know.
Okay. And so at what age did you get involved in crime, and did you get involved in a gang?
You know, I would say that, you know, watching it your whole childhood, not much of a family structure at home, you gravitate towards it very early. So, I mean, I'm 10 years old.
10 years old?
10, 11, yeah.
Okay. And what's the process like in terms of getting involved with that? Is it?
You pretty much just get tired of the narrative at home, you know, the arguing and the yelling, and you make a decision to just hang out in the streets and what's in the streets is left for you to be influenced by
Right.
gangs, drugs.
Got it.
You know,
Okay. And was there, I guess, was there a financial component, or was it more like, because I think people join gangs or turn to crime for different reasons. Do you think was there a financial component? Was there a sense of belonging?
not
Or
at that time, not that young. It was just
Okay.
a matter of, you know, looking up to people that were being idolized in the neighborhood and stuff like that.
Right.
Again, just not wanting to go home. A lot of us youngsters, a lot of my friends, we just didn't want to go home.
Got it. Okay. By the way, guys, do you hear the audio okay? If you guys can just type 1 in chat if the audio is coming in, just give us a 1 in chat. Thanks, guys. You got involved pretty early on, so I guess, did you ever end up in juvenile hall or anything like that?
No.
Or nothing?
No
Okay.
juvenile hall,
No
no
juvie.
YA record.
Okay.
I thought I was clever, you know, most of my childhood.
Yeah.
And things catch up to you. You get sloppy, and you get careless and reckless, and everyone's got their time to, you know, to get locked up, I guess, if you're out there just doing whatever.
Got it. Okay. And how many, so were you in and out of jail, prison at all, or?
Actually, I was incarceration free up until the age of 19.
19, okay.
And yeah, so no.
Brandon, can we just have you move the microphone a little and just speak into the microphone a bit?
Okay.
You can tilt it up a bit towards, yeah, just perfect, thanks. So you said 19, what was it that I guess got you that in prison that first time?
Like most of the kids at that time where I'm from, there's nothing to look forward to but a future of criminal activity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the drugs, the drinking, the partying, the influence of music, stuff like that, the influence of movies. You know, a lot of that stuff had a lot of part to play on making everything seem normal, to the point where the idea of picking up a handgun, going and robbing a liquor store, not such a bad idea. You know,
Yeah.
if somebody crosses your path and you don't really like the way they rubbed you, a couple shots at them seemed like the right idea. You know, there wasn't a lot of, you know, gray area. It's just black and white.
And you were 19 when you first went to, was it jail, was it prison? Because there's a difference, right?
I was just at the end of 19 when I was arrested.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long were you in prison for?
Just over 11 years.
Okay. So what was so that was your first experience going in, your very first time getting sentenced, and you're sentenced for 11 years?
12, but
12.
I ended up doing about a little over 11. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Because normally you hear people end up doing like maybe 60-70% of their time because there's good time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you did most of your sentence.
Yeah, it's really a system of credits they give you based on the severity of your crime and stuff like that. People getting 35%, 50%. For a violent offense with a firearm, you're going to get 85%. So, and then I picked up some time while I was in prison, so almost maxed out and did the whole 12, but
Okay.
did just above 11. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And so what was it exactly? I don't know if you can go into it, but what were you, I guess, initially sentenced for that landed you that 12-year prison sentence?
Second-degree armed robbery with use of firearm.
Okay.
So I was charged with 4 armed robberies initially, and I took a deal for 1, and it was a 12-year term. It was actually the low term 2 for the actual robbery, but a 10-year gun enhancement for having a firearm in the commission of a felony.
Okay.
So,
And your first ever offense though, in 12 years.
Right.
That's a long time. I mean, so were you distraught when they handed down the sentence? I mean, 12 years, at you said 19, or maybe you were about 20, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's almost a lifetime at 20 years old.
Well, the first offer was 39 years and 6 months, because it was actually 6 armed robberies that they had arrested me for. So 4 were sticking, and they went from 39 years, 6 months to 18 years down to 12. And when I said 12, my attorney pulled the dump truck lever and said, "You better take it, or, you know, go see a public defender."
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of went with what I had.
Wow. And did the, do you think it was a good plea deal or whatever? Like, or do you kind of look back and you think maybe I should have?
No, I got did dirty.
Yeah.
I got.
'Cause
did
I mean,
dirty. They didn't have really that much on me.
right.
You know, I had maybe 6 different crimes at the time, but I was the only one that was arrested, the only one that was sentenced, the only one that went up for any of the crimes. So, you know, they got one, they got enough.
Yeah. So it was your first time in prison.
Mm-hmm.
You were 20 years old. Can you tell us, like, what was the first 48 hours, first 24 hours like going in? What was that like?
You know, it was stressful. You know, I've been around a lot of people in the streets that were in and out of incarceration, you know, and the things that I was doing were not so flamboyant as theirs were. It was kind of low key. I thought I was smart, thought I was clever, thought I had watched every gangster flick to be able to know what to do and what not to do. Had enough older homeboys going through similar things that I'd learned from their experiences. But sooner or later, you just stop caring. Sooner or later, you're just so reckless. You just you know, go for broke. And when I was arrested, and they're reading all the, you know, all the charges, and this is what kind of time this carries. I didn't have a mask on when I did my robberies. You know, I just went in point blank range, handed over. That's it. But I had several crime partners, and the investigators were just in that interrogation room was brutal. They were just, "Man, you know, you got give us one. We know who this guy is. We already know who he is. We need you to confirm it." I don't met him at a party. His name was, you know, Shadow. I don't know. You know, so it was about 2 days of that. They pull me in, bring me out, pull me in, bring me out, because it was right before elections, right before November. And so these judges and these sheriffs in the county, you know, the ones that were involved in my case, they all wanted to shine. And they only got to shine off me. So.
And were there, just going back to your sentencing, because you did mention that you were involved in some gang, or a gang rather, was there like a gang enhancement component of your conviction?
They dropped it. That was part of the plea agreement.
I see.
They
okay.
only give me 1 strike, drop the gang enhancement if I accepted the 10-year gun enhancement with the 2 low term for the robbery.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so are you able to talk about like the gang that you were in? Did it have a name, or?
You know, seeing as how I'm no longer involved in that kind of life, it's not, I feel still a level of respect for the people who are in that life, and
okay.
being out here on the street, on camera, it's not something I want to speak on, or I should speak on. You know?
Got it. So I guess kind of going back to like when you first, you know, well, I guess, so were you out on bail, or were you sitting in county jail?
Yeah, I actually got out on a $25,000 bond.
Okay.
And I was out on bail for like 2 weeks. I got real depressed, started drinking a lot. What was popular in my neighborhood at the time was like benzodiazepines,
mm-hmm.
pills, Valiums, and Xanax, and all that stuff was big. And we were at a motel, just kind of just hanging out, and I got real drunk, got real just like, oh, fuck it, I'm going away for all this time, you know, it is what it is. And I actually got into it, I don't even know what it was over, but I got into it with the hotel manager. Ended up in a big fight in the room, chairs getting thrown around, bodies getting thrown around. Next thing I know, I'm strapped to a gurney in an ambulance, getting sent to a medical ward on a 5150 hold because I'm uncontrollable. So.
And you said you had been drinking?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I
So
mean, I
maybe
was
that
already
was-
an alcoholic from the age of 12. So
From
I mean,
12?
yeah, I started drinking early. So I mean, you know, I'm out on bail. I'm gonna get. I know I'm gonna go and do a bunch of time. A lot of the people who were my homeboys at the time kind of distanced themselves because a lot of them were my crime partners, and they were, you know, is he gonna tell? Is he gonna, you know, whoop whoop whoop? You know, so I felt like I had all this pressure on me. My family telling me, man, forget them. They're not gonna matter. You know, think about your family. Think about this, and I was raised not to do that. You just don't tell. It's not an option, you know. Just that incident right there, sitting in a psych ward for 72 hours around people that are drooling and women that got, you know, hack marks all over
Slash
their
marks,
wrists.
yeah.
I was like, man, how the fuck did I get here? You know, it was really just a spiral, just out of control. You know, you get away with one crime, you get away with a couple. You know, we're at a party, there's no more beer left. Ah, fuck it, just get the strap, let's go hit the liquor store, and I'll bring some money to the table. Problem solved. No thinking about consequences, no, you know, no reins, just whatever.
Right. And so you had been out on bail for
Mhm.
2 weeks. Then there's this incident at it was a hotel, right?
Yeah, it was Carmel
then-
Valley Road, it was a hotel.
And then you got picked up. It's a 5151 or 5150.
5151, or one of them two,
Yeah,
5150,
yeah.
I think. Basically, just
It's like a psychiatric hold or something like
right,
that.
the cops
yeah.
came, pinned me down. Well, I think what really led them to do that was they went in there and found this bag of benzodiazepines with a bunch of empty tall cans, and were probably like, just, you know, he's throwing shit. He attacked, that was another charge. He attacked the manager of the hotel. He didn't press charges.
And then so you were arrested, right?
I was
Again?
already out on bail.
Well, yeah. So you're out on bail.
So I get
then
rearrested, go to the county.
and then you stay in county.
I go to the psych ward 72 hours, and then they release me back to the county jail.
And then you stay in the county jail until your trial for the armed robbery.
I basically screwed off my bail. I
Okay.
threw away, my family threw away, you know,
Yeah.
25 racks, something like that.
Jeez. And so you stayed in county jail because some trials can take months, even up to 1 or 2 years. So how long were you in county jail before you were sentenced?
About a month.
Oh, only a month.
About a
Okay.
month,
Oh,
maybe
because
less.
you took the plea deal.
Right. No,
Right.
I was still, they gave me the 39 with the 6, said no, they gave me the 18, let's sit on it, out on bail, I go back, and then during the point of me going back and forth, after the incident in the motel room, that's when my attorney was like,
Right.
bro, DA brought it down to 12, if you don't take this 12, like, you're screwing yourself.
Okay.
I'm like, 12 years? I'm gonna get out in my 30s? Like, the fuck? Like, but, yeah.
So you took the plea. You were sitting in, was it like Salinas County Jail or
Monterey
something?
County and Salinas,
Monterey
yeah.
County Jail. And then, so my understanding is once you're sentenced, at that point, if you're either you take a plea or you're found guilty, at that point they take you from jail and then you're transferred to a prison.
Right.
So how long were you in county jail before you ended up going to prison, or was it pretty quick that they sent you?
I went pretty quick.
Okay.
I was there, I was sentenced on September 5th, and I got to prison
What year was that?
2002.
2002. Okay.
And I showed up at Kern Valley in Delano, the reception center for prison, October 30th, 2002.
Okay. And what was the intake procedure as far as going to prison for the first time?
The
What
bus
was that?
ride was brutal, 5 hours riding like this, side by side, in a little cage with people across from you and a couple people right here behind the driver and the passenger. I had never been to the Central Valley, Delano area, Kern Valley area, so it was all new to me. Very ugly prison, gray. It was the old Delano. There's there's a newer Kern Valley, which is in Delano, and then old Kern, which is Delano reception. And it was kind of a rock and roll spot, even for a reception. Well, 2 yards were reception, B yard and D yard were reception. The rest was mainline. And I mean, it was time to get ready.
Got it. And the prison, it's called Delano.
It's in Delano. It's
in
Kern
Delano.
Valley.
Kern Valley
State
Prison.
Yeah.
State prison. And did you, for the entirety of your sentence, you stayed there the entire time, or did you ever move prisons?
No, I was there for about 6 months. Yeah, there was an
Only
incident
6
that
months.
happened when I first got there. I don't like following rules. I didn't follow rules in the street. And so I questioned someone's authority. I don't want to get too much into that.
Sure.
But I questioned someone's authority, and I was reprimanded for it. And so I had to go to the hole. And then I came back out of the hole.
For the people watching that don't know what that is, what is the hole?
The hole is administrative segregation, which means it's like a jail within the prison. So you're not going anywhere unless you're cuffed, feet chains, wrist chains.
And you stay in your cell, right? Pretty much 23 hours.
They have
out
a
of the day.
yard, you know what I'm
Okay.
saying? But I wasn't allowed those privileges yet because I was still under investigation. Classification has to, see you, interview you, and, ask you if you want to not go back to that building or if you have any enemy concerns. And I was just like, nah, I just had a situation. Can I go back now?
Right.
I want to visit, So
And how long were you in the? I've heard different names for it. So there's like the SHU. Is that special housing unit? Like, is
the
that
SHU
something?
is an abbreviation for a segregative housing unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you were in the hole. And how long were you there for?
I was in the hole maybe 30 days.
30 days.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they moved you to a different
No,
facility?
they put me right back in the same,
they put you-
same building. Yeah, different celly,
Okay.
same building.
Okay. But so you said it was Kern Valley, you were there for only 6 months,
Mhm.
and then you moved.
So
to-
reception center happens for all people who are getting incarcerated, right? Like
Oh, and so Kern Valley is is a reception facility?
for my county at the time.
Okay.
So every county has its own reception.
Okay.
Like some people go to San Quentin
Yeah.
for reception. Some people go to Tehachapi. It kind of just depends on your geography. Where you're at in the state of California, where you commit your crime, where they arrest you.
Got it. Okay. And where did you end up at after Kern Valley?
My first prison they sent me to was a D facility at Pleasant Valley State Prison in Coalinga.
And what is a D facility?
D yard. There's A yard, B yard, C yard, D yard.
And is that the level of security? So
No, they're just different names of the yard.
Oh, just different names for the yard.
Right.
Okay. But there are different levels of
Yes, it was a level
yards
3.
and
It was a level 3 sympathizing level 4. It was like an overflow yard.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so wait, so you were in Kern Valley and where were the other places that you went?
That was the first prison.
Okay. But you went to a few others, right?
Right.
And were they all in California, or did
Yeah.
they ship you
From there, I went to Salinas Valley,
Salinas Valley?
and from Salinas Valley, I went to Soledad,
Okay.
and Soledad I paroled from.
Got it. Okay. So were you, I mean, you'd already been in county jail, and that's a pretty similar experience to prison. I assume there's some differences. Would you say overall, once you got to prison, that, because my understanding is there's more, maybe a bit more programs once you hit prison.
Yeah, you're able to come out your cell and you have, access to, it depends on what's happening on the yard, If
Right.
there's a lot of, level 1s and 2s, you kind of can move around a little bit like that. 3s and 4s, things happen and they slam the yard for 4 months, 6 months, and, you're just programming with your cellie and looking forward to taking a shower every 72 hours, or some places are 48. And that's how I spend most of my time, slammed down.
And that's when you're stuck in your cell. And you have to, like, bird bath, I think it's called, where you...
Yeah, I mean,
What?
it gets to the point when you're in there so long, you almost welcome a bird bath. You favor a bird bath more than a regular shower because, you do it on your time. All your stuff's right there. You don't got to go down the tier, up the tier. But for me in particular at that time, showers are mandatory.
Okay.
Must be present.
So can you talk a bit about the politics of prison when when you first go in. I've watched a couple shows, so my understanding is at least in the California correctional system, be it jail or prison, there's racial segregation.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a bit about that and explain to the audience kind of how that breaks down?
There's no place for you to just be like, oh, I'm not involved in any of that. Like if you're depending on your race, depending on the geography of what part of California you come from, you are placed with a card. There's even a population called just others, which is like Samoan, Asians, Islanders, parliamentarians, which is like Indians, people that don't associate north, south, red, blue, so they just kind of have their own political structure that's not as severe as the others, but it exists.
Okay. And so you were, who did you align with, I guess?
Well, like again, I said, being from Salinas, from Northern California, whether I had a choice or not, I was placed with a northern car.
Okay. Because are you a quarter white or half white or?
My mother's white, my dad's Mexican.
Okay. So do you get to pick, or is it?
No, I mean when I was in the streets, if I would have grew up in LA, I would have been, a little sureño.
Okay.
If I would have grew up around, different areas, if I would have grew up in Fresno, I would have been a bulldog. If I would have grew up in an area that had a lot of white class influence and stuff like that, I would have been I'm probably not a skinhead. I think it's crap, but
yeah,
it all depends. It really depends. You can't really look at it and say, this person's this way, this person's that way. I mean, I've met white dudes that have white power blasted on their body, but they're listening to rap music with obviously, a black artist.
Right.
It's really just based on personal preferences once you get past the mandatory politics of prison.
And are there alliances or between
Sure.
these racial
Yeah,
groups?
there's always alliances for protection and power.
Okay.
Nowadays, more it's out of money, because money brings power, and if you have enough power, then you obviously have protection.
Mm-hmm.
So,
are there beefs between the races? So I mean, are the whites against the blacks, or are the whites against the South Siders or the North Siders? Like, who are there alliances between the whites and the North Siders, and they're kind of against the black? Like, how does that?
there's been general alliances that have always been together, maybe for the past 20 or 30 years, but it depends on what yard you're at. Every different prison is like a different city, and they do things just a little bit differently than they do at the prison, 300 miles from it. You know what I'm saying? So, again, I'm not willing to divulge any
Sure.
prison. There's a lot of prison channels on YouTube that do stuff like that and cover that stuff. And,
Sure.
me personally, because it's no longer a part of my life, I don't feel at liberty to speak on
Certain things.
yeah, I mean, viewers can go check out different podcasts
Sure.
and stuff like that. But for me personally, that's not my position to speak on.
Sure. As far as just segregation, like I've heard some things like you can't sit at certain tables with a certain race. So stuff like that.
Very true, very true. I mean, when you go in there, you're looking at your own car, and when I say car, that's your clique, that's your gang, that's who you're housed with, that's who you run with. If they get into it, you're gonna get into it, and if you don't, they're gonna get into it with you. And that's just the understanding you got from the gate. And as far as sitting with people, you sit with your own. I mean, if you go in there not racist, that's fine, but you're still gonna pretty much learn to have discord or even hate for these other people. And I mean, and when it comes to Hispanics, I mean, you have two factions that have had a pretty bad history, but they're all brown. You know, they grew up the same way. They have so much in common, just different parts of geography of the state, and they're pinned against each other like Democrats and Republicans.
And what are the two factions?
You have Mexicans, Chicanos from up north, Chicanos from down south.
And that's the Norteños and Sureños, is that? Okay, got it.
You could say that.
Okay. I don't know. I've so I guess a question for me about me. So, you know, I grew up kind of middle class, silly, goofy dude, kind of like almost a class clown type guy.
Right.
You know, not particularly intimidating. I'm very pale. I might even be a vampire. You know, I got this kind of goofy YouTube channel where I did these pranks and stuff. If I go to prison, you know, I don't know, fucking tax evasion, you know, whatever it is. Well, I guess that'd be a federal thing. But let's say I go to prison, whatever, who knows what the crime I committed is. Am I fucked?
You know, you can go to prison and be a person just like you if you have a good word, if you keep your word, if you're not a bullshitter, if you shoot from the hip, meaning, you know, you say what's on your mind, but not over the top. You respect the things other people are saying, though you might not agree with it. You know, you can't go wrong with a closed mouth. You know what I'm saying? So if you just learn how to behave and carry yourself, and the biggest thing, when someone puts you in a corner, if someone, what's called tests your nuts, and you react like you just fold up, then that's a mark. And everyone's gonna know you're a mark. And everyone's gonna take a piece of you, whether they want your canteen, you know, whether they wanna pump you up to have your family send them money. I mean, you'll be used and utilized, you know. So as long as you go in there as a man and you carry yourself like a man and you keep your word like a man, and when, you know, don't take it personal, it's just business. If somebody wants to fade with you, take it, you know. But more often than not, the trouble that comes for people in prison are self-garnished. They cause these problems themselves, either out of ignorance or really just thinking that they're all that. A lot of dudes go into prison thinking they're all that. I've seen plenty of them, you know, and it never worked out for them, you know. It may have worked out for them a couple incidences. You hear their name fly through the wire 6, 7, 8 years down the road. You hear what happened to a boy. Yeah, I can see how that happened, because you already know what kind of kit they're working out of, their attitude, how they carry themselves. You, if you're just a straight guy, you're not looking to buy anyone's friendship. You know, you're just an honest man, and you let it be known, not by being boisterous, but when the time comes, you let it be known, like, hey, I'm not no punk, you know.
Got it.
And you maybe got to take an ass whooping to prove that, but hey, that fool will fight. That's highly respected in prison. You know, winning is always like, yeah, he got fucked up. But the biggest hurdle and the biggest thing to respect is, hey, at least he got down. At least he fought. You know, so if you go in there and, you know, don't ball up, you're getting your ass whooped, but you're still swinging all that you got, you know, people can't do nothing but when you come back to the yard, you know, like, hey, you know.
Right. And is that something that's just inevitable, that will happen to you, or, you know, someone comes and tests you?
It's eventually going to happen. Bro.
Okay.
I mean, if you're there long enough, you're going to have every opportunity to either witness everything, see everything, and be a part of, you know.
Got it.
Yeah.
Let's take a little break to read the super chats, Chris. If you can pull those up. Do we have any, Chris?
Yes, we have one.
One. Okay. All right.
And trees died.
You want to display that?
Yeah, it's right there. There's no comment associated with it. I think they're just.
Are you able to show it? Can you? Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Trees died. Thank you for the $9.99 super chat. Really appreciate the support. Thank you. So we have no other super chats, so we'll continue on. So I think you said earlier that when you go in there, no matter what, like, you're part of a gang. Is that fair to say? I mean,
It all depends on the individual. I mean, there's a million different inmates. There's a million different stories. And I've always thought to generalize individual stories with a lot of focused on what gang they were from and what,
Sure.
I mean, there's cowards in every gang. There's Savage, J-Cat, you know, all in no matter what, individuals from everywhere, every city, every gang, you know, it really just depends on the individual and the individual's journey up to that point of where they're at in prison. You know,
Right.
the journey is everything. Where they're from, how they're being segregated. And again, you know, a lot of the influence is from CDC is from prison. Prison, you know, really instigates all this. You know, it's job security for them. So, you know, I mean, there's been so many incidences that happen that I've been around where we knew it came from administration. We knew it was a bogus kite. There was no tension between so-and-so and so-and-so. It was just hyped up by administration because it's summertime. They don't want to be out on the yard all day long in 100-degree weather. They'd rather slam everybody down so they can do 3 months of the summer, you know, kicking back in the program office, in the chapel, shooting the shit, while we're all locked up in the cells, burning up,
got it.
you know, no visits. So a lot of it is instigated by the police. It's very corrupt in prison. Very, very, very corrupt. Again, like I said, it's its own entity. Every prison is generally the same, but they have different wardens, different situations that happen, different guards, and they all operate like their own little chain of command. And it's a power trip. They have a lot of power in there. When you're a CO and you go to work, if you have status, you have a lot of power.
And some of them are corrupt too, right? I mean, they'll.
A lot of them are corrupt, and the ones that aren't corrupt kind of really don't have a voice, because the most powerful of the brass are corrupt. Because to have absolute control over criminal minds, you can't do it fair, so they get corrupt.
Do some of the guards, I guess they conspire, or maybe conspire is not the right word, but they work with some of the inmates, and do they even smuggle stuff in for inmates? Do
Again,
they,
yeah,
for payment and that sort of stuff?
It just depends on what yard you're on. You know,
Yeah.
there's some yards, you know, you have a bunch of cell phones because there's a pipeline. You have some yards where there ain't nothing going on. There's no dope. I mean, I've met guys, come to a yard. Man, there ain't no fucking dope here. I'm getting out of here. And they'll take off. They'll go to the hole and they're, fuck this place. I'm not. They got a dope habit. You know, so if they pull up at a yard they were sent to, whether it was their choice or not, and there ain't no dope or there ain't nothing going on, they'll try to leave.
So I guess going back to like when you first get in, let's say I go in, I would be, who would I be with? Is it the white boys, or like what are they called? Is it the Woods? I've heard the Woods.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. And so
Allegedly.
right? Yeah. So is someone going to approach me when I first go in, and are they going to tell me what's up, or like how's that going to look?
You'll get approached by somebody from, you know, your race segment will approach you, ask your name, what you're in for. Can you produce your paperwork? If you can't, that's a big problem. You know, it means you got something to hide. You know, they see your paperwork, they see you're not there for no weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're going to introduce you to a few people. They're going to give you a workout partner. For me, they'll put you, how I was brought into it, they'll put you on a squad. And that
A workout squad, or
you do work out, but
Okay.
it's more of a patrol squad. This is your squad. You know, they're going to, you know what I mean? I mean, they don't tell you this, but what they're actually doing is they're putting you with somewhat seasoned people that know the game a little better than you do, that are already kind of been there for a minute. And they're going to take note of how you carry yourself, what you're saying, what your dialogue is like, and they're going to go report that back up chain of command, so that the people within your structure, they're going to figure out what kind of person you are real quick. You know, is he a hothead? Is he an idiot? Is he, you know, does he got a big mouth? You know, does he got money? Does he got family that's got money? Ooh, we can keep him around and really. So it's all about, you know, and again, I don't like speaking on it because I'm not in a position to slander anything, and I don't really care to. But you know, if you're expendable and you show that you're expendable to anything in life, you will be utilized by people in power. Period. You know, if you are quick to just torpedo and yeah, I'll do it, and you will be utilized. You know, if you're scared and you want to buy your way out of it and whatnot, you will be utilized. But again, it all depends on who's got the say so. You know, nah, we don't want that weak link in the chain. Get him out of here. You know, and at that time, there was no, you know, hands-on removal, which meant, you know, you get assaulted with just fists. You know, you're getting cut at the very least. You know, with, you know, something sharp. So, you know, nowadays in prison it's different. You decide you don't want to be somewhere. Right from the cop car, they put you in a place where you're kind of away from all that stuff. So it's a lot different nowadays, you know, back in 2000, 2002.
Yeah. And you said, so back then there was a no hands thing. So that's basically like, if you're going to fight somebody, it's not going to be a fist fight. There's going to be a stabbing.
Well, I mean, everybody's allegedly has weapons. So,
right.
You know, I had a weapon. Everyone around me had a weapon. My squad had a weapon. And so it just really depends on where you're at and who's pushing the issue and how are they pushing it.
Got it.
You know.
And before, you mentioned there was a chain of command. So can you speak a bit about what exactly that looks like as far as a chain of command? I've heard the term shot caller before. I don't know if you've heard different terms used.
The only way to break it down would have to be to get intricate, you know what I'm saying? And again, you know, there's a lot of channels that will be in depth on that stuff like that. And it's just, you know, there's a chain of command.
Sure. Got it. Okay. Can you just scoot the microphone just a little closer to you? Cool. So there, you know, one thing I've heard, you know, you hear stories of guys going in with, you know, 1-2 year prison sentences, maybe even shorter. You know, they caught, you know, something kind of more petty, maybe drugs, something like that, bar fight, whatever it may be. And they get caught up with something while on the inside, and they originally went in with a 1 or 2 year sentence, and they end up adding 5, 10,
life.
15 years to their sentence, or they get life, you know, wash their whole life away. Did you ever witness anything like that while you were inside? What is that pretty common, or?
It's I wouldn't say pretty common, but you meet people every so often. Like, hey, bro, I came in with 2 years. I was here on a violation. I was here on a 90-day observation, which meant the courts just sent them to prison for 90 days just to see how they do, if they integrate with a gang, if they get political, if they, you know, it's kind of like tossing a potential candidate to the fire and see if they burn themselves, you know what I'm saying? And some people just do their 90-day op and get a chance to go home. Some people go in there and pick up a stabbing and get life. You know, again, it all depends on who's influencing what.
So you mentioned how, I think earlier, about how, like, you don't have a choice, you don't have a say as far as when you go in and who you end up having to associate with. I heard something about some people can roll like Christian. Is that a thing, or is that just like, nah, you can't?
It is. People go in there and get religious, and for the most part, gang factions, you know, like all men, will respect that if the person is genuine. You know, prison is a college of personalities. There's so much you can learn by just watching the yard and watching other people, especially for a young mind. You know what I'm saying? And when it comes to religion, you know, if you're serious about it and you walk that walk and you're serious about it, people may leave you alone, but they'll be on you the second they catch you in a frivolous conversation about, you know, some girlfriend you used to, you know, be with back in the day, and how you wish that if they catch you speaking any worldly dialogue, like, your reputation for your Christianity or your Muslimhood is going to go down real quick, and then they're just looking at you like a fake, and your target's that much bigger. Let's get rid of you, you know. But a lot of times, even if you're a Christian, again, depending on where you're at, if you're on a level 4 yard, don't matter. You could be a Christian, but if we're getting off, you're going to get off, period.
Still got to put in work. And
yeah, I mean, I said, the severities of a lot of these things that have to do with prison depend on the level of the yard and who is running the yard at that time for whoever's respected car.
Got it.
You know, you can't really generalize. It's so different for different locations, different yards.
Got it. And were you general population and so there's different designations, I guess. So what are some of the different designations for the type of inmates? Are there some people that are
you know,
actually maybe we shouldn't talk about, I don't know, but
no, I mean, you have some people that just commit crimes and go to prison and don't want to deal with none of the stuff, nothing. And a lot of them end up in the hole. Back in the days when I first got busted, you would just go to the hole. And then they created different kind of yards for people to go to. But those yards were set up for people with bad crimes. You know, so going to that yard, man, you're going to take a big blemish on your name back home where you're from, here in prison. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's kind of a gamble.
Yeah, and
is
that called protective custody?
It was called
PCU?
Protective custody back in the days. They call it SNY, Sensitive Need Yard now.
Yeah.
You know.
And if someone was just,
but
if someone just committed, say, any normal crime, nothing, you know, I know there's certain crimes that'll definitely, you'll want to be on that kind of yard, because if you're not, and you're in, I guess, a GP yard, they're going to take care of you. I guess, like, if you got bad paperwork, like a choma, you know, like that kind of
if you got bad paperwork and you can't, or if you, like I said, if they jam you up for your paperwork and you can't produce it, they're going to assume you're hiding something.
And if they do suspect you of hiding something, how long are you going to be on the yard?
Not long. Those investigations,
like a day?
Those investigations happen quick.
And they'll,
unless they're going to utilize, like I said, it all depends. If you got money and they want to keep you around for a month and drain you before they dispose of you, then sure.
Okay.
You know,
if someone famous goes to prison, let's say Brad Pitt, I don't know what he would get convicted for, goes to prison, is he going GP or is he going PC?
If he wants to, you know.
But do you think he would get, because of his fame?
I think administration would get at him and be like, look, you're a high profile actor. There's a lot of manipulators in these walls, Mr. Pitt. We have a certain, you know, it's not a celebrity yard, but it's a yard you can go to where you'll generally be left alone. But nowadays, those yards, from what I hear, allegedly, those yards have all the same drama that the other yards, the GP main line, had. So those lines have been blurred so much to the point where, I mean, everything's changed. And like I said, if I was going to get specific on it and really get into detail, I could explain it.
Sure.
But I would be putting myself in a position where I'm either speaking a narrative I shouldn't or glorifying it, and I don't want to do either or.
Sure.
You know.
How would you describe the relationship between the guards and the prisoners? Is it all bad? Is there any good?
It's an individual basis, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you get some officers that are very respectful. You know, they're respectful when they give you your mail. They're respectful when they key you in and key you out. And you get some guards that are just dicks, dude. Just assholes, you know, that get off on being there, you know, and depending on what yard these cops are on, a lot of them get hit on the 4 yards. Salinas Valley, I've seen women officers with stab marks in their face, and gash marks on CO's necks, and I mean, they've been through, you know, either they were just in the way or they had a big mouth, you know.
Did you ever like have a good like banter relationship with any guards, or was it kind of like, you know, we don't even want to be seen talking to?
Just keep it respectful.
Keep it respectful.
You know,
Okay.
for me personally, I was never allowed to talk to an officer by myself. You know, either my cellie's in the cell with me, I'm asking about mail, or we're asking about showers, or just a little program, hey, what time is it, you know. But as far as that, you don't just walk up to an officer and start chopping it up with them and you know, like, hey, how's your this and that. Now, there's some yards where that happens, you know, but like I said, all depends on, a lot of it depends. But yes.
Did you ever know or see any female guards hook up with any inmates?
Oh, yeah.
Is that something that
You
goes?
know, I mean, you don't see them hold hands in the yard, you know.
Sure,
but,
yeah,
But
yeah.
it all depends on what kind of code of conduct is being enforced. You know what I'm saying? If it's a real loose yard and everyone's kind of just like putting their business out there, I mean, it's a matter of time before the CO is getting snatched up by ISU, and which is like a police department in prison that watches the staff, the free staff, the cooks, nurses, medical, and inmates. So they're watching everybody, you know, who's bringing in the phones, who's doing all this. So their job is to surveillance everyone. And, you know, there's a lot of haters in prison too, you know. Doesn't matter really what yard or what side, active, not active, there's a lot of haters in prison. And if they see you doing something that they're not getting, or they're not getting a piece of pie of what you're getting, or this CO's pulling you out extra early, or this female free staff is pulling you out extra early to go do inventory in the canteen, and only you gets pulled out 3-4 weeks in a row, you know, she knows where she's at. She knows what she's doing. So, you know, people put 2 and 2 together fast. But yeah, relationships happen. I mean, I had a cellie that had he was in Quinton, and he had this, a wife. She was actually a former CO at a different prison. She got fired from her job, moved to where he's located now, and used to pull him out every weekend to visit him. And other COs, it's funny, other COs in the visiting room would recognize her, or she'd have a hot name, you know, meaning people know about her name. And that's her right there, man. That's the chick that was a CO over at so-and-so and left to be with, oh boy, like, you know, it gets around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it happens. People are, human nature is human nature. You know, if a female CO is attracted to a certain inmate, he's out there in the yard buffing all day, doing his thing, carries himself good. In her mind, man, if I could just get him out there, like I'd have the man of my dreams, like a lot of them.
And there's a lot of hyper masculine men in prison. So
Well, I wouldn't say hyper.
I shouldn't say
because you kind of have to. Prison's a place where you're not ashamed to be masculine, but at the same time, it's not looked at as a high quality to walk around like a peacock with your chest out, you know,
right.
all this and that. You know, there's a lot of people in prison. The ones you really got to watch out for, the ones that really do something to you, that are just quiet. And they kind of just walk, you know, head down, eyes up, and mind their own business. And
what type were you?
My last 4 or 5 years, I was that type.
The quiet.
Once you learn, once you learn what's a good medium, you know, you just very respectful, very humble. That way, you know, if you get into anything, no matter what happens, you get hurt, they get hurt, you know that it's not something that you instigated, that you had absolute power to change. You know what I'm saying? Hey, if you're going to get into it with someone, it's going to happen, period. But let it not be because you had a big mouth. Let it not be because you had reckless eyeballing, didn't know how to respect another man's, you know, space or something like that. Respect is big. Respect is huge.
Very important in prison,
Yes.
yeah. What are there any sort of basic etiquette things you can talk about that you need to sort of adhere to in prison? I mean, I heard one thing is, for example, you never reach or grab food from somebody else's tray or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's
I mean, that to me,
yeah,
that seems
yeah.
obvious, but
One thing I noticed from the gate when I very first got to prison, because before that in county jail they self-feed us. They bring our trays to all of our cell. You're slammed down 23 hours a day. Whenever they give you your tray with a little carton of milk. So my first time I sat down in the day room in D-Yard, D4 in Delano, when I got to prison reception, I noticed everyone took their milks off the table and shook. You know, you shake milk before you open it.
yeah.
Well, they would put the milk down here and they would shake it below the table. And I asked my cellie, I said, "Hey, bro, like, how come everybody does that?" He said, "Because the perspiration on the milk container on the box, when you shake it, it might splash and hit the dude next to you or the dude in the table over from you with some of that condensation, and that's you know, I guess, you know,
fight breaks out and
right. So that's one thing. Whenever I would see anybody get a milk and just shake it at their table like that above the table, I'd be like, ooh, bad form.
Yeah.
You know, but that was one thing I immediately recognized when I got to prison. I'll never forget was shaking your milk down here so the condensation don't go off on the guy next to you.
Got it. And did you, kind of going back to the female inmate thing, did you ever have a little romance maybe with a cute
Maybe.
female maybe, okay. Maybe, you're a discreet guy. You're a discreet guy, so
Maybe not.
maybe not. Did you have a girlfriend at the time while you were, either when you went in or during your incarceration?
I did in the very beginning. We actually got married. We had a few family visits. Our visits kept on getting canceled. It's
Yeah.
a 5-hour drive from where I was at that time. It's a lot of stress. Looking at 12 years, she was just as young as I was, 19, 20. So, it's too hard, man. It's hard. You got to kind of let people go. It really is hard.
Yeah.
And then after that, you're just a hungry 20-year-old that's like, pen pal, what's up with your prima, your sister? Can I write? Oh yeah, she's seen you at visit. She thinks you're cool. Like, go ahead and write. So you're just looking for pen pals.
Yeah.
Some people don't care. They're just focused on their workout. They're focused on their book. They're not even tripping on a female. But the majority of guys, yeah, they, give me I want the fattest one. I want the ugliest one with the thickest glasses. Not that large women with glasses are not beautiful, but yeah, I'm happy with that because you're lonely in there. You're lonely. You have all this time to think, and your standards, little by little, just kind of,
Yeah.
they get less and less shallow.
And did, while you were in there, were you scared ever?
In the beginning, yeah.
In the
It
beginning?
was a totally new environment. The county jail for me, where I'm from, is ran very strict, and there was a incident I had to partake in that was like, man, if I keep going like this, like there's no way I'm gonna make it out in 12 years. Like it's just impossible, And so you're after you kind of get your hands dirty, you're just kind of thinking to yourself like, I want to go home. Everyone wants to go home. I want to make my date, but that's what you say to yourself, to your cellie, and to everybody else around you. Oh, I'm ready, bro. I'm ready. Whatever. Like it's whatever. Yeah. But everyone's a little scared, especially in the beginning. They don't know what to expect. But once after a few years, and the structure has become a part of your life, and you kind of see yourself actually becoming more of a man, and the streets, it's whatever. Especially as a kid, you don't really. There's no real loyalty anywhere. It's just kind of like whatever works, whatever suits me, I'm gonna run with it. But in there, it's different. It's kind of like go to the military. You might not agree with everything the government's doing, but you sure as hell are gonna, go fight and die in that war if you have to. And that's what's kind of put over your head.
And was there, did you see a lot of violence
Yeah.
in the system? And
Yeah.
how frequent would you say there's a fight or stabbing or?
It just all depends, man. You can see some crazy stuff happen in the chow hall. You could see things happen waiting in line for a package. You could see things happen. Two cellies can get drunk or just have a disagreement and beat the shit out of each other, and one gets drug out purple. The other one comes out, with a concussion grenade, all, itchy and can't breathe. And, it just all depends, But yeah, a lot of stuff like that does happen. Again, it varies from yard and custody level for sure.
Got it. There's this, and I think there's a saying that some people say, and I personally think it's in really bad taste, but people say, oh, if someone they don't like ends up going to prison or something, they say, I hope they drop the soap, which is, but my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's not a lot of, I don't know if we should say the word because we're on YouTube, but let's just say there's not a lot of assault of that kind in the prison system. And if you were to do that, like if you were to do that, other inmates would then target you if you had had assaulted another inmate in that way. Am I making sense when I say assault, by the way?
No, I know what you mean. Back in the days, like 70s, maybe the early 80s and stuff like that. That type of behavior was more condoned on the unders. As things kind of shifted into the 90s and 2000s, that type of behavior is just looked at as just no class. We don't want any part of that to blemish how the rest of us carry ourselves. You got, because only certain people have those kind of interests, I guess you
Right.
could say.
Yeah.
But it reflects on what they're a part of, So now that type of behavior, drop the soap on a rope, like the individual that's trying to pitch is just as, is looked at just as slanderous as the one that's trying to catch, if you can say. So that type of behavior is not, if it happens, it's behind a sheet, behind closed doors, and it's not something that's like, but there's some yards allegedly where, people can hook up and be themselves, and they got some prisons nowadays that promote transgenderism, and they got bras and insulin, not insulin, but hormone shots for inmates.
Wow.
Prison's really evolved from what it was, a very, very violent place in the 90s. I didn't get there till early 2000s, but the 90s it was brutal, and so it set the stage for everything in the 2000s. But the administration and politics, money has such a big influence that they start, finding ways to make more money out of prisons. One thing I'll bring up that you're probably not going to ask is, in prison, you've always been able to have your family every quarter send you a package, and they would go to the store and they would pick out, your favorite kind of Levi's or your silver tabs or whatever have you, and they would make your 30-pound package. It could be under 30 pounds, but it can't be over. And they would give these street packages to their loved ones, send them to the prison. They'll get it. You'll probably get it like 20, 30 days later. They eliminated all that. You can still get your package, but you got to order it from a vendor that's created and funded and authorized by CDCR. First they had one, then they had two, now they got like 10 different packages now. You could probably even more that you can choose from. So instead of people going out and spending money and wherever the mall to buy your stuff, the only way the inmates are getting their packages is if they buy from the authorized vendors of CDC. And they created them. They're owned by the COs, started in Folsom, so they've monetized that whole everything. When I first got there, they were, the peanut butter and jelly was from, over here. The milk was from over here. By the time I left, everything was made in prison. It's called PIA. The bread, the cookies, the milk, everything was PIA. So it's basically a racketeer, and they've found every which way to make an extra buck off of housing people doing time.
And it's a way to make money.
They found a way, every which way to make money to monetize off you being locked up. From your packages, that was just your family, the kind of medication you get, the kind of food you eat, everything.
Got it. Interesting. So, when did you get out?
2013, the end of 2013.
And you went in 2002, you said?
I was already fighting my case and then 2001, and then 2002 I actually went to prison.
Okay. And you got out 2013. You said 2013, right?
2014.
You got out 2014. What was the first thing you wanted to do when you got out, like versus what you actually did?
I know I wanted to go to the ocean. I've always been crazy about the ocean. I always went to the ocean as a kid. So yeah, wanted to go see the water. Aside from other obvious things that a man would want to do when he gets out of prison for that long, yeah.
I can think of a few. What was someone waiting for you when you got out?
No.
Family or?
Family.
Yeah.
I had a decent support system. Uncle, my mother, my sisters, they were all there. Everyone's lives had evolved over that period of time. So You know, you're taken out of everyone's life for a period of time, and then you're thrown back in, and everyone has to readjust. You got to adjust. They have to adjust. But for the people coming out, you know, I didn't. You really don't take that into account. You kind of just think it's, you know, all you, and you know, your family's scarred and scathed and maybe traumatized from the whole experience of you being gone. Now you're back. You're covered in ink. You have this exterior about your character that's nothing they've ever identified with from you before. So they're kind of getting to know you again. Therapy's big. Therapy is massively overlooked, and it's big for people coming out of incarceration, you know, and that's something I didn't get involved in, you know, until much later. It was the first thing, not because, you know, if people are on medication or they have psychological problems, everybody coming out from that experience needs to be soundboarding their thoughts with somebody, because it's going to come out wrong on the girlfriend, it's going to come out wrong on your mom's or your dad or your brother or your uncle, and you find yourself isolated out all over again. When you're free now, but you're still isolated.
But you found the therapy to be very helpful for you in terms of processing.
You just got to stay connected, or keep having the conversation about self-embetterment, you know, even with people that might not sympathize with your situation, but can relate on different areas. You know, fellowship is good.
Did you stay in touch with any people that you met in the correction system, or make any lifelong friends?
Not initially, but you know, once I learned Facebook really well, after about a year or so of being out, you know, I'm scrolling through people you may know, and I seen a couple faces pop up, like, oh man, I wonder if he's got a phone, thinking they're still locked up. So, you know, hit him on the messenger, get a response back. Hey, where you at, man? I'm out. You're out. Where you at? Like, you know, but it wasn't the partying and let's go to the club. It was kind of like, so you're out and I'm out. I got all this stuff I gotta, you know. People don't realize when you're in prison, there's one side of it that's very easy. You don't gotta work. I mean, you know, if you want to just eat the bare minimum, but you know, you're gonna get fed 3 times a day. Your cell is free. Well, the taxpayers pay it, but you're not paying for anything. You know, when you get out, all of a sudden you got apartment, you got to get your license, you got to get a car, you got to get all these little things. Me, I went in as a kid. So for people that go in real young and then get out when they're older, like they're out to a whole new world and a whole new set of responsibilities they have no familiarity with at all.
You mentioned that some people, you connected with some people via Facebook. So you went in 2001, 2002, came out in 2014. Technologically, there's pretty substantial changes occurred. You know, smartphones, social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that. Were you, while you were in the prison system, I mean, were you trying to sort of stay tapped into what was going on the outside, or was it a pretty big shock to you coming out and, you know, seeing all how the world changed?
I never knew how sharp I was until I went to prison. I was very much a crash dummy as a kid, meaning class clown. I'll do it. Oh, that's stupid, bro. That's crazy, man. That's, you know, fuck it, whatever. But in prison, I learned it's not the hardest dude. It's not the dude that's bad that could be good. It's the good man that could be bad when necessary. You know, so it's the smart one. It's the chess player. It's the individual who can take in everything that is around him, make it a comfortable setting, and still move wisely. You know what I'm saying? That was the biggest thing that I learned coming out, was that, you know, if I could do it in there, I could do. I'll try to do it out here. You know.
Chris, can we just pull up this cheers from Progressive real quick?
Sure.
By the way, guys, if you want to get any super chats in, if you have any questions for Brandon, feel free to submit a super chat. We'll do 10 and up for now.
There you go. If you want to see, this is he actually donated 300 bits.
300 bits. Progressive alter ego, cheers 100. Yeah, it's weird how it's formatted here. I guess that's just how Twitch shows it. Bro, if there are people that go Christian in jail, of course, there are people that go Satanist or something like that. Did you witness any, and he's asking you this, Brandon, did you witness any rituals or something related to it, Satanism? And that's from Progressive Alter Ego. Thank you for the cheers, man. Appreciate it. So I guess he's asking, like, religion-wise, was there any Satanism?
So the main religions that were recognized by CDC when I first went in was the Muslim religion off top. They get a lot of recognitions. They do Ramadan for them. They let them fast. There could be a mayhem going on in prison, murder, and if it's Ramadan, they're going to come out for the Ramadan. They're coming out. Like they have a lot of. They really respect that. The Christians, church on Sunday. If we're locked down, they'll let them out. If you want to go to church, you see everybody go to do their thing. Satanism and stuff like that. I will tell you a story, a true story. There was a lot of push by the Wiccan population in prison to have it being recognized, because CDC wouldn't recognize the Wiccan, which I guess is what a Satanist would fall under, Wicca. And Wicca wasn't being given any kind of, and the Odinists, sorry. So the Odinists and the Wiccans were trying to have the same kind of respect from CDC that the Muslims and the Christians were. CDC didn't honor it. Wiccans like to have a solstice festival and stuff like that, and the Odinists like to do their mock mead rituals and stuff like that. It's pretty cool, actually. And CDC would just be like, no, you guys aren't. So an individual that I know really well, a good friend of mine, actually was very crafty with legal work and stuff like that, and got it into court and got denied and appealed it and got the rights for the Wiccans won, so that it would not only be a recognized religion and they would have the same respect and right-of-ways according to their dogma that Christians and Muslims had. They actually gave them ritual grounds on the prison, whether it was directly on the yard or a little place maybe over by visiting or on the other side of the gate, a little grass area, altar. So yeah, CDC in before 2010, somewhere 2008, 2007, 8, 9, 10, the Wiccans were given the same rights as Christians and Muslims and given ritual grounds. Because the parliamentarians, who are the Indians, have always had their sweat lodge. They go sweat. Their guide brings them in, different types of things, herbs, sage, mugwort, different types of things that you, as a regular inmate, you're not going to get. But if you're under that umbrella and you're parliamentarian or native, then you get to participate in the sweat lodge, and I'm pretty sure there's a sweat lodge at every prison.
Interesting.
So
I guess Progressive Alter Ego, go get sentenced to prison if you want to check out the Wiccan.
Yeah, they might have different ones now. It's been a while, but
Yeah.
The individual was a close. In fact, to go back to the question, did I ever hook up with anybody? I actually did hook up with this individual when I got out. Met him on Facebook. Dude, you got a phone? I'll send you. Nah, man, I'm out. I'm over here. Where you at? 2 hours away. He was in his van. I seen him later that night. We hooked up. We chilled. He had an old lady. They were already fighting. I was like, oh, bro. You know what I mean? So.
And just to clarify for the audience, when you say hook up, you mean just like meet
Yeah,
up?
yeah. We met.
Like
he
you
drove.
linked up, right?
Yeah. He
Not
was
like-
in Modesto and I was in Sacramento, and he said, "Where you at, bro? I'm there."
Okay.
He drove straight there.
Got
So
it.
we chilled, we chopped it up. This is an individual that I actually learned a lot from. Turned me on to a lot of just really fascinating shit that I had never thought even existed, whether it have to do with the government, how
Well,
things
let's
work.
talk a little bit about that. What were some of the things or the ideas that he tuned you onto?
So when I met him, he was actually a Hermetic priest.
What's
his
that?
title.
What's
So Hermeticism is a certain form of Wicca. It goes back to Egypt and I think even Sumer. And he had a priesthood in that. He was so educated in it that he actually had like a little type of chrono for it or something like that. And he would hold the little rituals and stuff like that for the Wiccans during their festival and the solstices and stuff like that. And this guy's just a renegade. Just a straight renegade. Very respectful, straightforward, convict, 100%, but had the kind of conversations that you don't have just with everyone, you know what I'm saying? And I really gravitated towards it, you know what I'm saying? And you know, he basically was learning how to become sovereign, what they call, or what they used to call a creditor or a secured party creditor. And, you know, once I got a hold of this kind of material, after reading conspiracy books when I was in the SHU, you know, Behold the Pale White Horse, Jim Mars, Ruled by Secrecy, Unseen Hand, Ralph Epperson, just to name a few authors. This material was like, holy shit, this is teaching me how banks work, and how courts work, and how governments work, you know, how schools work, what is money, where it came from, where's the real value at. And my mind just went, holy shit, you know, I need more of this. It was addicting.
And so, is this the guy that you had met up with, or is
Right.
this okay?
Same guy.
Same guy. And so, is he kind of the one? Because, by the way, I don't know if you guys know. So, Brandon, should we tell them how we met?
Sure.
So, kind of funny story. About 2 years ago, I think it was almost 2 years ago, I was doing a video called the Trump tattoo prank. It's kind of a sophomoric idea, but I wasn't in it, but it was my buddy Cody and this girl I knew, Sarah. And basically the concept for the video was we put a fake temporary Trump tattoo on their lower back. So Trump stamp, tramp stamp, kind of stupid, whatever. And so we're just like going around and just having people kind of react to it. And like we'd try to have them, the whole ploy was we'd ask people to like, you know, we'd either walk and sort of in front of them so they would see the tattoo, or we would be like, hey, can you put a little sunscreen on our back? And then they'd see the tattoo. And I mean, living in California's a pretty liberal area, a lot of people, and this was kind of at the height of the pandemic. People hated Trump, but they really fucking hated Trump at this point. And so it was just kind of, I'm not particularly political. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. You know, I have my own beliefs and stuff, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm an equal opportunity troll, you know, so I'll mess with, you know, if they're kind of more liberal leaning, I'll kind of do something that might upset them a little bit. If they're a bit more conservative, I might do something. And so the idea was this Trump idea, and we were on the beach, and you were just having a blast of a time on the beach there, listening to some tunes, and Cody came up to you, and you had a great reaction to his tattoo, and you were like, you know, all for it.
Except for it being on his lower back.
Yeah, you were like, what are you doing? Did you think it was a legit tattoo?
I wouldn't think that this whole prank was taking place. You know, I'm probably a 6-pack deep already.
Okay.
And, you know, I'm drinking every good. It was a beautiful day. It was a gorgeous day. And you just came up with the camera, and I was like, wow, really? Like, no one supports that dude. You know what I mean? Like, everyone hates him. Like, you know, good for you up top. And, you know, just to be clear, I'm not Democrat or Republican at all. I don't favor anything that has shown itself to be corrupt or anything. But when I was in prison and I'm digesting all this literature, you know, I mean, I was excited when Obama got elected. I was fucking banging on my door like, hell yeah, you know, I'm not that I'm racist against white, I'm half white, but I mean,
Sure,
anybody but a fucking white guy in there, you know, I was happy.
Progress, right?
Finally, some kind of change. This is a milestone. Me and my cellie were a fucking milestone. You know, this is going to change history. And then 4 years went by, and then 8 years went by, and it was just like promise, just like more. It's like, man, this dude's just like Bush. I read a book called American Theocracy, and in that book, it really. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was
In that book, American Theocracy, it really breaks down, you know, Washington is just, it's one big clique. And because I was in prison with that kind of mentality among me 24/7, and now I'm reading about these politicians throughout the years that have changed stages, Democrat, Republican, 4 years, 8 years, the presidency, I learned that, wait a minute, they're all one big clique. They're all in it for each other. There isn't no real debate going on in a presidential debate. It's all propped up. I read this book, I think it was by Jim Marrs, Ruled by Secrecy, where it talked about the Skull and Bones Society, and mentioned John Kerry was a bonesman and George Bush was a bonesman. And I was like, well, wait a minute, the same two dudes that went head up for the president in 2004? They're both on this, like, they're part of a secret society that is for itself, by itself, and against everyone else, but they're on the American stage pretending to be foes, taking jabs at each other for the seat. So whether you're involved in politics in a microcosm in a prison setting, or whether it's happening on a global scale, it's the same mentality. It's the same shit. It's the same approach. And in something as powerful as the American government, they can kill a president and blame it on a patsy, JFK, and totally get away with it, and everyone knows that they're lying, everyone knows that it's fake, it's bullshit, they can still get away with it and still hush it out. So they're only going to get better at what they do as time goes on. So here we are in the 2000s, I started to just question everything. And, by the time the election came, 2016, my mind is already wide open. Like these people are all, the Bushes, the Clintons, they all play some kind of role all together. The Pope and all these big, powerful world leaders that are pushing a certain agenda. You can call it New World Order, you can call it fascism, you can call it whatever you want to call it. They're all obviously in this car together. They're all pushing, and these are the same people. Their names are popping up in these books I'm reading. That the Council on Foreign Relations, NAFTA, all these different deals that were created that really didn't do nothing for the American people. In fact, they just hurted us, and we know this because it's 5-6 years down the road now. So we know this. So when and when it comes to Donald Trump, I could never stand him. The Apprentice would come on after Big Brother when I loved Big Brother in prison because it was like a psychological thing. And so I loved watching it. I mean, I was glued to it, who's gonna get evicted, who's got the HOH, I was like all up in it. But then The Apprentice would come on right after, and my TV went off, not watching it. My cellie was always like, oh no, I'm gonna watch it, it's cool. I can't stand that dude, man, I got nothing in common with him, turn him off. When Trump ran for president, when I actually seen that he was actually running and not just a clown up there, like he was like putting money into it, whatever, I was like, well, then I guess he's just part of this puppet show, and somehow, some way, he's gonna, lose. Or I always thought he was gonna be a fall guy for another person to win. When I seen all these people come out of the woodwork and start to slander him, and oh man, this happened, that happened, and actors were coming out, and all these people were coming out, and I'd watch the clips they would do of his speeches, about the Mexicans and all that stuff. I'd watch the clip from CNN, but then I go back on YouTube and watch the whole thing. But wait a minute, that's not how.
Right.
It didn't mean it like that.
I definitely saw. Sorry to cut you off. I know exactly what you're talking about, and so there's this compilation video, you've maybe seen it, where they were asking Trump to denounce white supremacy,
KKK and Jim
and
Crow
denounce
and all
it. And like it went back to like the 90s or something, and there are video clips, and these reporters continuously asked him to denounce, and he would say, yes, I denounce, I'm against it. And then during the presidential debate, they'd like bring it up. Well, why aren't you willing to denounce it? But then there's 7 minutes of clips of him denouncing it. I'm not particularly a huge Trump fan. I'm, sort of in the same vein as you, like not a Republican, not a Democrat. I think the whole kind of system's corrupt and they're in the pocket of corporations. And I think Trump definitely was a outsider coming in and disrupting quite a bit. Don't agree with him on everything, but it was interesting to see and even acknowledge that, like, hey, he's getting, the media is trying to spin the narrative and they're misrepresenting what the truth is. And at least, look, I mean, there's definitely things you can be critical of Trump on, but don't try to, like, you're just going to alienate people because you're not telling the truth. When you have CNN, MSNBC, all these news stations that are twisting things or covering just certain specific things to try to push forward a narrative, then you just lose all trust and you're like, okay, what's true, what's not then? If you're not going to be honest about this, because like you said, with that one speech he gave, well, what about the 5-10 seconds preceding it where he qualified the statement he was about to make? So anyway, sorry to cut you off.
And that's a good point. And to be honest, I got nothing in common with that man. You know what I'm saying? Good for him. He's got everything that he has. He's got a beautiful family that none of them are really seem to have much problems. I guess that's a pretty well-rounded background that he provides for his family. That's when I look to a man, I look at how does his family reflect, But just the fact that all these people exposed themselves to be liars and followers, I loved it. Because it wasn't fake. There was a lot of fake shit going on, but that part, the hate for him was real. You know what I'm saying? And they weren't saying that years prior. In fact, when they would have the Bush commentaries going on after he was elected, even after Obama was elected, they have a commentary, they'd weigh in on all the news anchors. Now let's go see what Mr. Donald Trump thinks, like as if his word was regarded amongst the media in Washington as like something of favor. But now that he's running against you people that have been screwing us for 40, 50 plus years, all of you, red and blue alike, now all of a sudden you hate him and you want the American people to hate him. So right then and there, I was just like, boom, it's either a dog and pony show, he's either just like them and he's playing a role and they're playing controlled opposition, or they righteously hate him because he's messing up their agenda. And if you're not for their agenda, then you got to be for the total opposite, which is what? The truth or the people. You know what I'm saying? So. Would you mind leaning in a little closer to the microphone? So still, I don't know, bro. It could all still be, just a bunch of theatrics and who knows. But
yeah. By the way, you can feel free to move the microphone, or you can even hold it up to you if you want.
That's cool. And but yeah, I just liked the fact that he disrupted everything. And for 4 years, all these people could tell the American people was, your president's a clown, hate him. That's all that mattered in the media's eyes. Every single day, I have never seen a topic that the media has chose to shred apart so much over, which meant he's a big threat. I know the media is corrupt. I know the government's corrupt. I know the whole commercial system in America is corrupt. The monetizing situation is corrupt. So anything that came from that entity that was saying that he's corrupt, it's character slander, just like in prison. When you're trying to knock somebody out of a position of power or douse someone's promotion upcoming, you slander them. Oh, he's got bad paperwork. Oh, this chick wrote me and told me that she was at a party with them and he wooed this and that. Like all of a sudden, all this stuff comes out. But if you're working with us and not against us, then we'll we'll tolerate your patriotic point of views and stuff. Just don't rock the boat. He flipped over the whole boat, and it was obvious. And
Do you think it's a dangerous time to speak the truth and tell the truth?
It's never a dangerous time to speak the truth and say the truth.
I guess maybe I should rephrase my question. Do you think that there are, sort of tying into what you just said, do you think people are scared to say the truth or say what they really think because there are ramifications, whether career-wise, whether the sort of wide, broad social narrative, and what is appropriate to speak about and what is appropriate to think?
I think smart people, and I think everybody generally has a peace of mind, so everyone's smart to some degree. You know, it's more comfortable for most people to follow and just go with the flow. Less stress, less hassle. Hey, Washington's way over there. That doesn't concern me, and people are very mature about it and just kind of whatever. But you know, the people that are in the streets that are screaming this, and that if they just peeled back a few layers of reality of what's going on with whatever they're trying to represent or protest against, they probably wouldn't have that position. You know, and I likened it to, you know, wind-up toys. You know, you wind something up, you push on a sensitive harpstring long enough, like race or gender or, you know, having the right to abort. You start playing with stuff like that, and you're gonna unsettle a lot of people, and you're gonna give them the right of way to act out a certain way. And the only thing the media seemed to be interested in during that whole 4 years was chaos. That's all. It's just a police station. It's just a precinct. You know, tear it down. Okay, cool. I don't really particularly care for the cops either. You know what I'm saying? But unless you have a sawed-off shotgun under your bed, if someone breaks into your home and you're not ready to defend yourself, or if your grandmother who doesn't live in your home, you know, who's she going to call? Do you have friends in the neighborhood that are going to rush there to her aid? No, you got to call the cops. So therefore, you know, utilize them. That's your taxpayer dollars. Utilize them. You got a situation you don't want to deal with? Call the cops, utilize them. Doesn't mean you got to tell on anybody, but here, handle my small work, officer. You know, public servant. You know what I mean? You know, I have no favoritism for that because I know what it's about, and it's all money and control. But, you know, for the sake of public safety, flipping a city upside down, unless there's a plan to replace it with something better, not just a bunch of people spray painting things, leaving a bunch of trash everywhere, making it look disgusting. That's not, you didn't do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just threw a fit, and it was tolerated because those that are in power don't have the reins right now, and it doesn't matter anyway. Screw it. This is America under this guy, this ugly, you know.
You're talking Joe Biden? Are you talking Joe Biden?
I'm talking 4 years prior.
Oh, Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So again, you know, he could be all a part of it, but the hate for him was real, and the hate for him was being instigated so obviously. For me personally, I could be wrong. For me personally, that's what I seen.
Yeah. Well, I think he definitely pissed off a lot of people because he spoke his mind, you know? And I thought he was actually like kind of funny guy. He was really funny.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
I found him very entertaining.
When you're a CEO and you make the kind of money he makes, there's a lot of confidence in your words. There's a lot of wittiness that only a few people are going to get, and the majority of people are like, "What? Why? They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand just how corrupt and dirty this country is. They don't understand just how veneered American society is when you get down to the rudiments of how shit really works."
Well, let's get into that.
And why it works how it does. It's scary. It's nasty.
And so I guess why do you, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but why do you think that America is corrupt? I mean, maybe that's sort of self-evident. It's like, well, no shit, it's, you know, it's corrupt, but.
There's no honor between the government and the people. There's been no honor for years. And if you have no honor, then no one's being held accountable to the truth. And if no one's being held accountable to the truth, then deception and lies become the new preferred way of communication. You see what I'm saying? Why tell them what we know? We could just lie and keep that to ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Parents do it to their children. Inmates do it to each other on prison yards, you know? You're responsible for these people. These people will stab and kill for you. But when it comes down to the righteous information of the inner workings of how things go down, they don't need to know. You know what I'm saying? throw, well, we did that for this reason, but we'll tell them we did it for this other reason, to keep us not exposed. That's our government too. That's every government pretty much. You know, and it's sad that's where the world is and where it probably always has been as far as government, but that's man. And that's the problem with people's perception on government is they have too much faith in their fellow, you know, leaders or fellow man. They have too much faith that what they're saying is the truth and what they're reading has been honestly written and not edited to fit a certain narrative. You know, people just take what they hear and read for face value for the most part. Even if there's an indication there might be something wrong with that, they just kind of, why concern myself? I got bills, I got work, and rightfully so. So people take the bare minimum when it comes to stuff like that and just, they stay focused on life, and rightfully so. But for someone that's sitting in prison who's really, you know, turned on by this like, wow, really? Like, that's all fake? Like, why is it fake? And then you liken it to what you're experiencing while you're in prison. Well, this is why, you know, COC chain of command is more recluse and more, you know, occult, hidden about their agenda and why they do what they do. So it goes the same on the world stage. So that clicked, and I'm just like, I don't trust shit. I don't trust none of it. 9 out of 10 times, whatever they say, it's the opposite of that, you know. Not all the time, but they're never going to put on national TV what's really happening. They're never going to put on national TV why they're invading a certain country for what reason. You know, and if that's the case, then how can you give merit to anything that's being put in front of you?
And you sort of started adapting this frame of mind or these thoughts when you were in.
It was it was the wake up call. It was like, holy shit! Like, you know, my whole life, I, you know, turn on the news. It's got to be what it is. You know, that's what the news lady said. Or
right.
This president came and gave an announcement. Well, that must be what's happening because the president said it. And you put full faith. You know, you pledge allegiance to the flag. You eat up everything your teachers tell you, thinking this is what it is. You get older and start questioning shit. It's not quite that. You know. And some people care to dig deep, and some people don't, and that's a person's choice. I was fascinated with digging deep. I loved to learn about, wow, so that's all just a front. Wow, so that, you know, I was, you know, and it made sense. It made way more sense than all the crap they were saying, you know, to suffice the people on a war they went and did, Benghazi, or some, you know, bombing they did, or invading of a country. You know, every country that's been invaded in the past 30 years have all just been against not giving up their sovereignty. They didn't want to give up their sovereignty. They didn't want to be a part of the UN, just like Russia doesn't want to be a part of the UN. And Iran doesn't want to be a part of the UN. Gaddafi didn't want to be a part of the UN. Saddam Hussein didn't want to be a part of the UN. These were people that might have not have been the best leaders, but look at our own leaders. Who are we? We can whack our own president and give the American people a fake story, and it's still written fact is when everyone knows it's BS.
And you think that's what happened with JFK, that it was the government?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't looked into it, so I don't know, but I've definitely heard a couple conspiracy theories. And
so, I mean, when you have something that lacks that much credibility, and it's the same structure that's been controlling shit, you know, the past 20 years, and now you're moving on 20 years ahead of time, and new stuff's happening, you don't believe nothing, bro. You got to be gullible to just eat that stuff up, or just not be looking at it long enough because you're worried about life. You know, taking care of your dog, or, you know, doing what you're supposed to do. Just enjoy the life God gave you, you know.
Yeah.
But you get a fascination for that kind of stuff, and they put you in the conspiracy theorist box, and now you're blackballed as like a lunatic because you're saying things that aren't politically correct. You're saying things that aren't written in the books as being facts. So to each his own.
And what are some of the not politically correct things that you say or think?
I don't even know if I can answer that with a thing or two. I would just say that, you know, for those that say they're liberal and they live a liberal life and they're liberal minded, I'm extremely liberal, but nothing like the liberal that would be categorized from, you know, America. You know, a lot of the things that upset certain people politically, I'm like, hey man, everyone is born with their own choice. You can do whatever the hell you want to do, as long as you're not directly harming somebody, as long as you are, you know, keeping it within your own, you know, world or whatever, then, you know, do you, go for it, man. If you want to be a man, turn to a woman. If you want to, you know, as long as you're not harming and you're not destroying anything and you're not handicapping another life, go for it, man. You know, embrace it, run with it. Yeah. You know, it's just when people try to stereotype it, put it on the political stage, shoot arrows at it from controlled opposition, and then point to the people and say, well, look, this is, get pissed off because this is what, it's dog and pony show. You know, it's you know, look over there because right here I'm doing this. You know, you don't need to see what's happening over here, so focus on that. Just keep watching this. You see right through it, bro. And once you see how deception works, you can only have so many forms of deception. It's just a tactic that goes around in circles. So you recognize it when you see it in the future after you identify it. You know, like, oh, there it is again. There they go again. You know, and that's the mentality of mankind. It's not that American government is terror. That's just the mentality of mankind, womankind, whatever have you, trying to obtain power, keep power, and you know, increase it. Those are the tactics used. Lying, deception. It's not me, it's them, so hate them. When you're really the one doing what you're blaming your accuser of doing, it's not me, it's him. It's the same. You know, it's nothing new under the sun, man. It's the same tactics, same strategies, different countries, different governments. They all do it. They all lie to their citizens or subjugates or subjects. They all tell them one thing and do another. You know, so America just has more financial power, and so their deception and their methods of doing it are more crafty and more patient, I think.
And this isn't something that's just perpetrated globally. It's also perpetrated, I mean, very obviously it's perpetrated among the citizenry of the U.S.
Right.
And do you feel that a lot of people just have the wool pulled over their eyes? They're just kind of in the matrix, like just blind to it?
You could definitely liken it to the Matrix, bro, because there's a point where, you know, once you learn how something gets down, you know how it gets down, or at least you know what they're capable of. You know what I'm saying? And when you see what our American government is capable of, you're not going to trust anything. You're going to wish the whole power structure is destroyed. You pray that somebody will have enough money and enough balls or enough guts, male or female, whoever it is, to challenge that, even though they might get their head blown off or they might get publicly murdered or however have you. You just, and then, you know, if, you know, something like that happens in my mind, and look what happens. Defamation 24/7 for 4 years. Hate this man. He's a clown. Hate him, hate him, hate him. I was like, wow, don't you guys feel embarrassed about, you can't have a segment about, you know, a freaking cat being rescued out of a tree, or, you know, this family had a, you know, kid beat cancer and the family won a lottery and they moved this beautiful, can't we lighten this up a little bit? Give us some reason to be happy about life? No, just hate this man. He's the reason for everything being wrong. And then now look at us. You know, I don't know how many people watch the news. I don't really watch it no more, but every time I chime in once or twice a week, they're telling people in New York how to get ready for a nuclear blast right now. They're telling people in New York, you know, if in case of a sudden nuclear blast, you know, go inside. And I'm like, what the how did we get from nothing to this? You know, and it's all our country, the UN, instigating other countries. You're either going to bow down to the UN and join our global gang, or we're gonna light you up. You know, and other countries call us infidels because they don't have the same umbrella of deception hanging over them like we do. They can, you know, see it from the outside looking in, like, man, their government is causing all this shit, and the 4th of July comes down and they're right there waving their corporate flag like proud to be an American. Do you know what your country's responsible for and all these other countries? You guys are stupid. You guys are asleep. You're infidel. You're brainwashed. And for the most part, they're right. You know, I mean, I love a free country, but you know, the country's not being ran and has not been ran by people who really give a damn about me or you, or the people in the street, or you know, American families of all races, backgrounds, ethnicities, cultures, creeds, religions, what have you. They don't care. You know.
And do you feel the media has some, or maybe even a lot of blame?
The media is the Wizard of Oz, bro. It's the confident people who think they're confident. They can get in a little booth and make this big loud projection to the world, fear mongering. You know, this is going to happen. This is if we don't, and everyone, what are they going to believe? The TV's saying it. We're in love with the TV. We get all of our shows from the TV. We got our, now it's Netflix and YouTube. But you know, back in the day, everybody had so much trust in what came out the box, because all our family shows came out on that same box. It's like a private Jesus or a private best friend or imaginary friend or something, you know. And wait, the same thing saying we need to vote for this guy and not vote for that guy. So everyone, it's just a sway of deception. It's just deception, bro. And they've mastered it, and they know exactly how to sway the population this way and sway the population that way. You can't be screaming freedom. You can't be saying fairness, equal opportunity, and then go take a look at your government's history and say, well, I can count on them to see us through. I can depend on their filter. I don't need one of my own, you know.
Question: Are you? Do you think Trump will run in 2024?
I don't know, but I hope that whoever does, as far as pissing off the power structure, I hope they pick up where he left off. I hope they all get pissed off all over, and they're just going to do the same thing. They're going to murder him in the news. They're going to slander him. If they can't put a bullet in him, they'll hang him politically.
Yeah,
because they're just so powerful. They're so big. They're, you know.
Yeah. Even if somebody comes up within one of the, even if someone comes up, say, in the Democratic Party, I mean, you saw what happened with Bernie Sanders. They really wanted Hillary Clinton, to be the candidate. And so I don't remember the exact details, but I mean, they basically sabotaged his, I think both in, I think it was in 2012 and I can't remember the year. I think they sabotaged him twice, Bernie. I think in 2016 and in 2020. They sabotaged Bernie. They wanted Hillary. Then they got Biden. And I think, the emails came out from the DNC or whatever. And so I think, it seems pretty bad on that front.
I think Bernie was, just based on stuff that I looked at, I don't know for sure. No one does. But he did a lot of touring in Russia and was influenced a lot by a lot of Russian Marxist type, material. And that was really going to be what it wasn't really their conglomerate. He wasn't really part of their thing, but he definitely bowed down to that NWO, to that whole structure, the Clintons, the Bushes, who were just puppets of the people behind the scene who are running everything. He had his own position, and that's why I feel like a lot of younger people kind of wanted to go, F Trump, but Bernie, because he wasn't saying the outrageous things Trump was. But
he did seem authentic. Like, to me, he seemed like genuine.
He seemed authentic, but, when he's on the stage battling Hillary and saying all these things about her, this, and that, and then he goes to endorse her, and she's a great person, this, and that. Come on, bro. Once you said your opinion about somebody politically one way, and then now you're saying it a different way because the other alternative of her not getting elected is Trump, and he doesn't have a shot in hell because they stole it from him, he bowed down to the whole thing. And if you bow down to something that you were once warring against, you become just as dirty as they are. So his credibility in my eyes was gone. He doesn't have the money to stand alone. He doesn't have the political background to stand alone.
Do you think if he does run in 2024, do you think you'll vote for him?
Who?
Trump.
I mean, I didn't vote for anybody. I mean, again, like I never really, I just like seeing corruption break. I like seeing people who are in power who are doing the wrong thing. Two parents that are hard on their kids got freaking sent to jail, and the kids went to better, you know, the aunt and the uncle and the grandparents who wanted to, right? I love that stuff. So I look at our presidential cabinet, the current one, and, you know, before Trump, as people who are just had us, you know, hook, line, and sinker. And someone came in like, nope, I'm gonna do it a whole different way. We're not scratch that, scratch that, scratch that, scratch that, scratch all that. I'm gonna actually give this country back to the people, to the posterity, which is where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a country for the people, not by the people, not for the government, by the government. The country is supposed to be for the people. And when the people don't have the power to decide how they want to live, how they want their families to be influenced, and what kind of food they eat, and what kind of media they're influenced to, what kind of chemicals are being put in their drugs, when they don't have that power no more, then the government should be abolished. I mean, that's written, you know, all throughout history. In our Constitution, it's written in, you know, different articles and bills. And I think we're way past the American people realizing that our government isn't quite so honest to us, you know. So anything that just screws their shit up, I'm with it. It could be a Trump, it could be a female, it could be a African American female, the African American Asian, it could be a mixed, someone who barely speaks English. I don't care who it is. Just destroy that power structure of both red and blue that's just been, you know, bullshitting this country for decades now. You know, I don't care who does it. You know, and that's the only light that I looked at Trump was, man, if this is for real, then he righteously pissed off all these people. And I'm reading about these people and a lot of this material, these books I'm reading, they set this up, set that up, put it off to be a good thing, but then it screwed the American people 5 years later, big time. Why? Because they got paid for it. You know, you go to another country, implement a policy, especially with trade. Trade is big. Trade is huge. Import, export goods, the whole commercial realm of how things work, that's a big back door. It goes on the taxpayer's back. American people will pay for it. We'll just tax them more. We'll just raise the gas prices. We'll just do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, what do you think is going on with that as far as the gas prices being increased? Is that PSYOP?
I mean, it's just you're going to pay for the gas and shut up if you don't like it, and don't drive if you don't. It's them. You know, I mean, gas prices weren't like that a few years ago. They actually were going down and down and down. Whether that hurt certain people that were tied in with other political, you know, components, you know, one doesn't know and one didn't seem to care in the presidential office, but it happened anyway. And the only people that really benefit from it was you and me. But, you know, you take that guy away and you put this guy back in, now we got the most gas prices we've ever had. We got a nuclear war pending. You know, we got out. Why? Because Russia, you know, Trump wanted to leave Russia alone. Hey, man, if he's not, let him, you know, maybe we can work something out where we can all coexist and they can, you know, do what they want to do within a level of respect. And if not, we're just, if it's go time, it's go time. We're not going to sit there and play with them. What we have going on right now is it's a mess, bro. It's a mess, a tragedy. It's so sad what's happening over there in Ukraine and stuff like that, but it's all being allowed. Where do you think all these children from the border and from over there with misplaced parents and stuff like that, these private buses that are coming and grabbing them in the middle of the night, and these airplane jets that are being, you know, they're being given all this money and being sent all over, where are they going? Where are all these families, broken families, landing at? There's no coverage on that, you know? And it's just a big opportunity. It's just this, for people of this corrupt nature, what's happening. It's a big opportunity. Power grab, pleasure grab, money grab, all of it. Because at the top you have pure corruption, or someone who's so senile, doesn't even know what's going on, that he just has handlers that tell him to go on and whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think we've been going for almost 2 hours. Maybe we'll wrap up in maybe 15 minutes or so,
Okay.
unless you want to keep going if you're feeling good. I don't know.
I mean,
I'm getting a little.
we could probably pick a different topic. I mean,
Yeah. So I had a few more questions just about prison stuff, if you're okay with that. So you got out in 2014. Did you get paroled out, or how does that work?
yeah, I paroled.
And are you still on parole, or
No.
are you finished with that?
No parole, no probation.
So you're totally in the clear.
Discharged my number, yeah.
That must feel good to kind of have that weight
Yeah.
over your shoulder. Because I've heard that probation or parole, like, can be very difficult too. Because I mean, probably not as difficult. Well, I've heard some people say it's harder than being in prison.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's true or not, but
Yeah, I mean, they just parole you to wherever you came from, and you know you're left to fend for yourself. Probation isn't going to help you out. And you know, one thing I really wanted to share, you know, before we got 15 minutes left or so, is
Sure.
and one of the main reasons why I wanted to come on
Yeah.
your podcast and share any kind of experience. I didn't think we were going to get political. I mean, it's
yeah,
kind of a dicey topic right there. It's like whatever, but attitude. Anyone coming out of incarceration, they've either learned that if they're going to make it out here, it's all about their attitude. It's all about how they approach every little situation and how they let every little situation affect them. A lot of people come out from incarceration with a lot of triggers, short fuses. They're scathed psychologically, or they're hardened in a certain area, you know. And if the only way they're going to be successful is if their attitude has had that moment of acceptance where, you know, how I project myself is how I'm going to reflect myself. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I learned in there, and that's what saved me. That's what's kept me out here, is that attitude adjustment. And it wasn't something I learned from the cops. It wasn't something I learned from the homeboys. It was something that I had to figure out and learn on my own. And that attitude came with learning about how the world really works, or how it really doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? And that was a very humbling experience for me. It changed how I view everything: politics, the news, money, people, anything in control, anything in power. Yeah, it made me a discerner of things. Yeah.
and that's something that you gained while you were on the inside, or is this sort of a revelation
Something-
when you once you got outside?
No, it was something I learned inside, and
Yeah.
I definitely I embraced it, man. I could feel that it made me a better person. It made me a stronger person, and I felt that if I can take that out to the street, own it, and home in on it, if I could share that with other people. I've seen so many people get out and go right back, or people that were in, seen them parole twice and seen them come back twice. Like, bro, how could you not? They got that same attitude. And you could be from a neighborhood and be a gang member and be out here and make it. More power to you. You can be fully involved in whatever political whatnot, you know what I'm saying? But at some point in time, a man's got to have his own mind. He's got to make his own choice. He's got to be able to say, I choose this battle, I refuse this battle. You know what I'm saying? And if you really care about your freedom and you care about being around for your kids and your family, you'll garnish a lot of respect for that, to where you won't really compromise it. You know?
Yeah. And even though I'm sure it must have been pretty sucky to be in prison, your loss of your freedom,
Sure.
loss of, freedom of movement, seeing certain things in there must have been difficult to process. Do you feel, it sounds like you definitely learned some things, and do you feel it made you stronger as a person?
100%, Brian. 100%. I mean, I when I paroled from prison, I was a brick wall. I mean, and what I mean by a brick wall is I was, solid. You know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't pull one over on me. I might have been a little hypochondriac coming out of prison, just because you got so much time in there to think, you get a little anxious. But there's a lot of people that come out that just want to do the right thing. They want to come out, they want to help, they want to bring enlightenment to people out here. There's a lot of good people that come out with that mentality. And if they're not plugged in with that right kind of fellowship, if they go back to the neighborhood where, here's a strap, bro, enemies around the corner, I mean, they got to do what they got to do based on the environment they chose to go back into. Some people don't got the choice. You know, some people are still really heavily influenced. Learning about all this kind of stuff gave me very much a mind of my own, aside from the rebel mind I already had. You know, question everything. Doesn't mean you got to argue with everything. You don't got to verbalize your disagreement, but in your mind, in your actions, in your belief system, question it, test it before you go and you know, hang your life on it.
Is there anything like you miss about prison?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. There's times in prison that can be funny, man. I mean, I've laughed my ass off several times with my cellies at the yard, just different little things that happen in this giant fishbowl of men, where everything's the same. Everyone knows everyone's programmed. There's, you know, 2,000 people plus on the yard at all time. You're seeing these different faces for years at a time, some of them. And just comedy pops up. Funny things happen, and it's good laughter. It's good, wholesome laughter. This might sound crazy, but there's been times I've even voiced to my family or friends, like, you know, I wish, but not really wish, but I kind of wish I could go back for just a month or two, just because of the structure, the workout routine. Get up, read, hit your grill, get ready for chow, come back from chow, clean the house. You know, bullshit with your celly. Here's your cup of coffee. Here's mine. Boom, music. Get ready for yard. Put on your yard dogs. Go to yard. Do that whole thing. Go see old boy in 1 block and 2 block. You know, is old girl working today? That certain fine CO you want? Oh yeah, she's there. All right, cool. I'm gonna go over there. And you know, you just do things to look forward to them, just to make your day go by. And with that kind of structure, almost a military structure, you really define yourself as an individual. And it's very self-rewarding over a period of time. And when you come out to the street, over time that kind of gets lost. It gets hidden behind that freaking cell phone, or that ex-girlfriend, or that dude that kind of looks like he might come from the same lifestyle you do, that gives you that off look every time. You know what I'm saying? And kind of makes you feel obligated to like jam them up. You know what I'm saying? There's just a lot of things out here that are obstacles that you don't have in there. Vice versa too, but I mean out here, you can really just let all that stuff go. You know what I'm saying? But if you really value what you learn, there's not a price tag you can put on what I learned in prison. I could not pay for, I could not offer anything for that peace of mind. That's something you gotta go through, learn. All them visits, lockdown, no visits today. Your family waiting on the other side of the fence. Nope, go back to your building, and going back there, hitting the walls, you know, just, wow, and you just right back on your bunk. Don't come back. You don't like the way it is in here, don't come back. Same thing the cops say, all the asshole cops. Hey man, you don't like it, don't come to prison. You know what I'm saying? And that couldn't be more from the truth, you know what I'm saying? If you don't like how your situation is, don't do things that'll put you right back there. So my number one rule is don't go back. Don't put yourself in any situation out here in the street that'll cause you to go back. If at all costs you can avoid it, if it's a mutual fist fight or something like that or whatever, and it's not gonna get, you know, if you're, hey, you know, we're both men, let's hash it out. Big deal, fuck it. But if it's something, you know, like you want money, or you trying to, you know, get back over on somebody, or revenge, these are all things that will put someone like me right back there in a heartbeat. And that's going to be my biggest life failure if I ever go back to prison. Because it's easy to stay out, but it's, in a way, it's not easy, you know, especially when you first get out. And the system is set up with probation and parole for you to just screw yourself at so many different angles. It's not fair, but it is what it is, you know. Because
earlier you had said that, and I think maybe you weren't maybe joking slightly, but you said you almost sometimes miss it, right? Like you wish you could go back for a month or two, and is that because
I missed the fellowship. The fellowship.
Yeah, and then it sounded like the structure too.
I missed my program. I had a great program in prison, especially in Soledad.
Yeah, and a lot of things, it seems, are kind of sort of your schedule's kind of taken care of for you. You're not really thinking, oh, I got this business meeting this day. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna cook. Like I mean, I guess you can get canteen and prep your own meals and stuff, but like, it's very regimented. It sort of takes that stress away from you.
It's structured for you, and whether you like the prison structure or not, doesn't matter. You're gonna roll with it, especially from your respective group segment, whoever you're housed with. But you can make your own program, whatever, like they call it cell time.
Mm-hmm.
You have no privacy in prison whatsoever, unless you're in the cell by yourself. Your cellie goes to yard, you stay back, or that's the only time you're getting any kind of privacy. So when you're in a cell with your cellmate in there, there's a certain space. The cells are real small. If one guy's down on the floor, the other guy's got to be on his bunk for the most time because the cells are so small. So you don't have a lot of privacy in there. You're always, see, out here in the streets, you could be isolated in your room, in your car, wherever you go, and get anxiety and depression quick. It's kind of hard to think that way in prison because you got your neighbors here, you got people you talk to, people to look forward to. You're looking forward to a visit. You're looking forward to, Friday's pizza or Friday hamburgers. You have little things, little small goals that give you these rewarding sensations. You're occupied by it. And out here in the streets, you have everything in abundance with no structure. So it's like the total opposite, and people get caught up and they fall.
So was there a way of doing things more efficiently in prison life than in civilian life?
Just like in there, it's mandatory respect. Like respect is just, hey, excuse me, sir. Even if you really give a shit about the dude, you're gonna approach him this way, because
right.
he doesn't feel he got the right amount of respect from you. He might respond in a way that you might not look so highly upon, and now you got a conflict. And a lot of really violent incidences happen in prison over small little things that could have really been either ironed out or never brought about to begin with. So being careful, not saying too much, and respect is big. And out here in the street, respect is almost optional. Whether you're driving in a store, your personal space, the things,
right.
You're at a bar and someone's talking to their friend, they're shouting over you, and it's like, right, you can feel the spray of their mouth, hit you like, that wouldn't happen.
In prison, you get into a fight over that stuff.
Yeah, it would be automatic. It would you wouldn't even
on site.
Like, hey, bro, that wasn't cool. It would just be, yeah.
Jeez. Okay. And
but people wouldn't behave that way. Again, I mean, most people don't. So I mean,
right.
that part I really liked about it. It was a very, very much a gentleman's game. Very much a gentleman's game.
There's more respect.
Right.
Got it. Is there any way you would have navigated your prison situation differently looking back at it? I know maybe there's certain things you don't want to discuss, but just anything you would have done differently, or something that would have made your experience easier to go through? Or would you say overall, it's fine how it was?
I think I did all right, Brian.
Yeah.
I think I did all right. I made it back out here to my family. I haven't picked up any of the behaviors that got me incarcerated to begin with. I mean, there's been a lot of times when I contemplate, like, you know what? But it's just like, what's the alternative, bro? You can go back home or your car or wherever you're at and cool off and not worry about going back to prison, or you can go and react and get pumped up. And if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. And if I do anything along those lines right, I'm going to be looked for by law enforcement within a matter of time. So, you don't got to fold up out here. Just don't put yourself in those situations. Don't surround yourself with those kind of people. You can come out here being an ex-gangman. Let me tell you something, man. There's some hard people in prison. There's some good people in prison. Funny, charismatic, intelligent men. Good men, solid men. They just happen to murder someone in the crime of passion. Now they're doing life and never get out. I was inspired by so many people, how they carried themselves, that how could I not bring that inspiration, make it a part of my character back out here to the street? How could I not adopt that? You know what I'm saying? Because I had never been around people like that in the street. I was just around knuckleheads and people that cared about ultimately themselves.
So you had some good role models in prison,
Role models,
or just
good friends. Yeah,
good-
you could say
good
that. Yeah,
men, yeah.
friends, people
Friends.
that I admire. I just admired their get down, and I had never
Right.
been exposed to behavior like that on the street or within my family
got it.
growing up. So yeah.
Is there what's the number one thing that you would change about the prison system?
You know, like I said, there's a lot of good people in prison that have generally good intentions. And if those good intentions and good wants from these different types of inmates could be embraced by the department and not just for a fake self-help group, you know, where really we're just going there to get high, really we're just trying to get out of our cell, we're just trying to, you know, knock this CO. If it was really, and there are good groups like that, you know, some inmates start their own groups and stuff. I had a group in there. But if more attention was put on that, you know, but everybody going into prison is being fed what they were being fed 20 years ago. Hey, this is your people, this is where you go, this is what it is. You know, I don't ever see that structure breaking, you know. It's a pretty powerful structure, and they're mimicking what their controllers do, you know. Gangs and politics in prison are just, they're doing what they do in Washington. It's the same thing. It's all about control. We're all in this yard. We want those dip bars because they're closer to the toilet. So if we have to stab someone from your group to make sure we have that, then that's a, you know, sacrifice we're willing to take. Then everything moves and stays on that level, you know. And the Department of Corrections definitely doesn't do anything to not instigate that. You know, they quiet as kept promote it and don't mind it. Makes their job important, makes them, it's a quota. It's, you know, it's money.
What is there any advice that you'd give your 18 or 19-year-old self?
In the very beginning, I was a little gullible. A good quality that I learned from my grandfather was I've always took pleasure in helping other people, even if it came at the cost of maybe throwing myself under the bus or maybe taking a shot, because I wasn't even worried about that or worried about me. I was just trying to help. I was just trying to, hey, this person needs a shirt. Hey, this person needs such and such. Well, why'd you give that to them? We ain't supposed to even be fucking with them. Why are you fraternizing with the enemy? What are you talking about, bro? They're, you know, I'm just, nah. And so that was very conflicted with me, and you know, I had issues here and there because I would be trying to do the right thing in my mind when that right thing went against what the right thing was politically at the top. You know, and if you're not a good follower, if you're not a good yes man, if you don't embrace the ideology the way they embrace it and how they embrace it, you're kind of you're a potential liability. And when you're a potential liability for too long, you become expendable. You know, and when they decide to remove you, it's never in a bad situation. I mean, it never happens in a good situation. You know, it's always, there's some blood, there's some hold time, there's some, you know, shots at your pride and your ego, but you learn to filter that pride and that ego and keep your eye on the prize coming out here and just being free. I can go get a soda whenever I want. I can go watch a movie whenever I want. I don't want to give up that freedom again. For what? If I really, 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 really have to, then at least I'll be back in that jail cell thinking knowing that, hey man, you did everything you could. You're only back in here right now because you were absolutely forced. And then I'll just go back to my structure, and it is what it is, you know, but hope that never happens.
So got a kind of a lighter question for you. What was dating like for you, like after you got out of the prison? Like Sorry, I'll
you're
let you.
still you're still kind of, well, at least I was. You're still thinking like a 19, 20-year-old. You know, you're still, you know, you're not, you know, me, guy getting out at, you know, 32, 33. You know, I hooked up real soon. I shouldn't have. A girl from my area where I'm from, we were kind of pen paling a little bit. Brought her up to stay with me not long after I got out, and all her baggage and her bad habits and stuff like that immediately was incorporated with my everyday life and my habits. And it was fire and ice. I mean, it was, you know, you want to hurry up and get a girl and move on with life and be normal, and you can't bring everyone to your speed. Everyone's at their own pace, and that was a flaw that I had when I got out. I felt that I can get out and be crafty enough to, you know, be with someone to maybe inspire them to maybe, hey, adopt this mentality that I've learned and found, you know, knowing it took me years to obtain that, but someone that you just get with, you think they're going to love you enough to really, okay, I'll yeah, right. You know, so for me, when I got out, it was a roller coaster relationships. Roller coaster, you know, you don't have any kind of relationship like that while you're in prison. I didn't, and now you're out, you know, and you know what the right thing is. You know how to stay out of trouble. You know how to go about your day productively. And when you're with someone who hasn't learned how to do that for themselves, you're just signing up for a toxic combatants on a daily basis. And that's what it was for me.
Got it.
So advice to people getting out, I don't care how fine she is or how good looking he is, just be very slow approach to your relationships when you get out. Very slow. Give it some time. Don't be such a know-it-all.
Got it. Is there anything else that you want to discuss? Any topics you wanted to go over? I know you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about a few other things, so I'm happy to dive into that with you now. Or if there's anything I might have missed any additional pieces you wanted to mention about prison, just anything you want to talk about.
I just would like people that are watching and people that watch this to you know, if they take anything from this podcast, I learned from my experience that nothing in this world works the way we think it does. The cops aren't there for what we think they are. The courts don't work how we think they do. It's all based on money. It's all based on control and keeping everybody not in the know. And, oh, well, Brandon, what do you mean by that? You know, what is the viewer supposed to think when you say that? It just means don't be so quick to think that you got it figured out as far as things that you're accepting as part of your belief system and making it a part of your personality and a part of your argument or a part of your philosophy as a being. You know, test everything, try it. You know, don't be so quick to commit to the first thing that comes on the TV or the first thing your friends happen to be running with or what comes to your news feed. Stay true to the voice inside you. Feel okay about being the only one that feels a certain way about something. Embrace your individualistic side. Is that a word, individualistic?
Yeah, that's word.
Embrace your individualism and go with it. You know, I don't care what your passion is. It can rival what your friends are doing. It can rival what your family would prefer to you. Stay true to yourself. Stay honest to yourself, because that's what I did. And whether people hate you or they love you, you know, at least you can love yourself at the end of the day.
Got it. And I also just wanted to we didn't really talk about this much during the podcast. I wanted to thank you because I think like back in October, I was going through some shit. I called you up, you picked up, no questions. You gave me your time. And like when I needed it, I needed some advice from somebody. And kind of one of the things I regret is I haven't developed a huge network of friends and stuff. I'm just so preoccupied with work and, I've had some relationships and stuff. And so, I asked for some advice on something, and you put me on the right path, and just wanted to say thank you for taking that time. I know we only spent like 5-10 minutes on the phone, but I did want to say, like, you really helped me in that moment, and I really appreciated you for that. So
Thank you, brother.
yeah,
It's my
you
pleasure.
gave me some good advice, so appreciate it. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over? You want to shout out anybody or
Nah, just stay tuned. Stay tuned to whatever. More good content to come.
Yeah. Do you think we should get you back on another show? Maybe dive into some other stuff? Or
We should definitely dive into the whole corporate commercial aspect of what I learned,
yeah.
how money works, how banks work.
Did you want to talk about some of that stuff now, or you want to maybe save it for?
Pretty extensive. Might need a couple more hours.
Okay.
So you might want to save it for another time. I don't want to just
Yeah.
because it's really something that people are going to be chiming in like, wait a minute, what? Like, or I heard, like, is that really true? And go look it up, bro. I'll bring the Black's Law Dictionary. I'll bring the case law, the statutes, everything to say what it is. It's just really the information that I learned about changed the way I think, changed the way I see the world, changed the way I acknowledge power structures and authority, and I think if a lot more people were open to that, and just at least go look at it for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go check it out. It would be as beneficial to them as it is to me.
Got it. So, Chris, I think a couple people are saying that we're not getting any sound. Do you know what?
I'm not entirely sure. I see the levels going up and down here. I don't know. Some people are
Yeah.
saying that it sounds low,
Okay.
but over here I see sound coming out.
Yeah.
Into
Do we
OBS?
have any super chats, or I don't think we really got any.
No super chats.
Okay.
But we do have some Twitch activity, some new subscribers and
Oh,
good
can
stuff
we
like that.
let's just pull that up really quick.
Sure. Give me a second.
All right. Can you scroll down just a little bit so we can? All right. Okay, so Eric Cruz, 69. I don't know if you're still watching, man. This was 2 hours ago, but thank you for the gifted one sub. Much appreciated. And thank you for the support, guys. By the way, we are live streaming this, or have been live streaming this on Twitch, twitch.tv/whatever. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it up to your Twitch. And every month you can sub totally free. It's a free, easy way to support the channel. So if you want, while we're wrapping up the show here, feel free to, just go over. Sorry, guys. Long interview. It's pretty hot in here. I think me and Brandon are both kind of tired. Feel free to drop a Amazon Prime sub. We're still figuring out the Twitch thing. Really appreciate the support, guys. And I know I've been reading a few of your comments, and we're still kind of figuring out the show. I've been inactive on YouTube for a long time, so it's not a huge surprise to me that the viewership is a bit low. But my goal is, I've been out of the game for a little bit, but I want to build back up. And I hope you guys, I really appreciate you guys that have been watching and who have stuck with me, through this time of inactivity. I really appreciate the support, and I'm hoping to build back up. I know I'm doing something new. I know it's not the pranks that you guys are used to, but I do really appreciate you guys who did tune in and left a comment and just watched and got to hear Brandon's story. So thank you guys for tuning in. We are going to be live again Tuesday at 7 p.m. We're going to be doing a dating show, and then we're going to be live again on Thursday at 7 p.m. We're going to be doing another dating show. I'm going to have a panel of anywhere from 4 to 6 other girls. Maybe Brandon, you want to come on the show? You can.
Yeah, I could be like a off voice of reason or treason, right?
There you go. Yeah,
Sure.
Tune in. Brandon will be there. No, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Brandon, do you have any final thoughts or any final messages?
Just want to thank all the listeners and viewers. When you see a formerly incarcerated or system impacted individual on the street, Don't be so quick to judge them. They might be a lot smarter than you think. And people need people. Give them your time, you know, and you never know, you might meet a really interesting person. You know, there's a lot of really good people that have the best of intentions that just don't know the right way to project it yet, that are incarcerated, men and women, you know, and thank you. Thank everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Brandon, for being my first ever guest on the Whatever Show. It was a very interesting interview. I'd love to have you back on.
Right on.
And anyways, guys, that wraps up our first episode. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Have a good night.